Ever get that feeling? You know that like little voice in your head that kind of whispers and asks if you're really up for it?
Oh, yeah, totally. That feeling of, am I enough?
Yeah,
It
exactly.
pops up everywhere, right?
Okay.
Like before a big presentation at work or scrolling through social media.
Uh-huh. Or even just when you have a quiet moment and you start thinking about things, it feels like everyone deals with that, right?
It really is universal. And it's interesting, like, how quickly we get stuck comparing ourselves to others.
Definitely. And for this deep dive, you found this blog post.
Yeah, it's from Rosy Minds. It's called Seeing Yourself Through God's Eyes.
And it deals with that exact feeling of not being enough, but it looks at it from like a spiritual point of view. It
Right.
tries to help us understand how valuable we really are.
Exactly.
So we're going to break down the main ideas from this post and see if it can help us change how we see ourselves.
Yeah, I think it can. The blog starts with a powerful idea.
It does. It quotes Psalm 139.15, I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well.
Wow. Yeah.
That quote really sets the tone for the whole discussion.
It definitely frames how we think about our value.
Right. Okay, so right off the bat, the blog asks a question that I think a lot of us have thought about before. It says, have you ever looked in the mirror and thought, I'm not enough?
Oh, yeah,
I mean, it just acknowledges how common that feeling
it
is.
does. And then it immediately counters that by saying, you are God's masterpiece.
Yeah, right. It's a powerful thing to hear when you're feeling down on yourself.
It really is. Like it's direct response to that inner voice that tells you you're not good enough. What's interesting is that the blog points out that while we might feel insecure or focus on our past mistakes, God sees us differently.
Totally. So how come we have such a hard time seeing ourselves the way God sees us? That's the real question, isn't it?
Yeah. Why is there such a disconnect between how valuable we are and how we see ourselves?
Exactly. The blog dives into some everyday situations where self-doubt tends to pop up, and it offers a spiritual perspective for each.
Okay.
Let's start with job interviews. I mean, I think everyone has felt that nervousness before a big interview,
Absolutely.
sitting there, heart racing, thinking, what if I totally mess this up? What if I'm not what they're looking for?
Ugh, it's the worst, right? It's like putting yourself out there and waiting to be judged. It's scary.
It is. And then the blog brings up 2 Timothy 1.7. It says, for God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind.
Right.
What I think is really helpful is how the blog explains that verse. It suggests that our worth in those situations doesn't just come from our skills or experience. There's something deeper, like a strength and clarity we can tap into.
That's
It's
right.
like it's shifting the focus from our personal anxieties to a feeling of empowerment.
So it's not about proving yourself.
Exactly. The blog makes the point that our worth isn't about acing that interview or anything else. It's about who we are at our core. It's not about achievements. It's about inherent value.
I see. So it's more about recognizing your own value rather than looking for others to validate you.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, then the blog talks about something we're all dealing with these days. Social media. You're scrolling through your feed and everyone's posting about their amazing lives, buying houses, going on awesome vacations.
Oh, yeah. It's like a constant stream of, look how great my life is.
And it's so easy to start comparing yourself and feeling like you're not doing enough or you're falling behind.
Totally.
Yeah.
You constantly see everyone else's highlight reel and forget that it's not real life.
And that's exactly what the blog reminds us. It says, social media is a highlight reel, not real life.
It is. We forget that.
It's easy to get sucked into thinking that everyone's life is perfect except ours.
Right. And then it brings in this verse from the Bible, 1 Samuel 16.7. It says, the Lord does not look at the things people look at. People look at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart.
And that's so different from what we see on social media, right?
Is it like the opposite of what we see online?
It's all about what's on the inside, not external stuff. And the blog uses this to remind us that true worth isn't about the things we see online. It's about being on our own unique path.
Yeah, it's about trusting your own journey and not comparing yourself to others.
Exactly. So the blog then compares how we often see ourselves with how God sees us. And it gives these 4 examples.
Yeah.
The first one is, we think, I'm not good enough.
Right.
But God says, you are fearfully and wonderfully made.
Like you are made with intention and purpose. You have value just because you exist.
Exactly. The second comparison is that we think, I've made too many mistakes.
Uh-huh.
But God says, nothing can separate you from my love.
So it's about forgiveness and acceptance,
Exactly. You're loved no matter what.
no matter what you've done.
The third one is, we doubt ourselves and think, I'm not talented enough.
Right.
But God says, I've given you unique gifts for a purpose.
So it's like Everyone has something special to offer.
Right. And those talents aren't just for us, they're meant to be used for something bigger.
Right.
And lastly, we feel alone and think, I'm all alone in this struggle. But God says, I will never leave you nor forsake you.
Wow. It's about knowing you're not alone in your struggles.
Exactly. God's always there with us.
Yeah. I love how those 4 examples show the difference between our negative thoughts and God's truth.
They do. And the blog encourages us to replace those negative thoughts with God's positive truth.
That's powerful.
To make it even more relatable, Rosy Minds, who wrote the blog, shares her own experience with self-doubt. She talks about how before she even started her blog, she was scared. She thought, what if no one reads this? What if people think I'm not qualified? What if I fail?
It's always encouraging to hear someone who's helping others also had to overcome challenges.
Yeah, it makes it feel more real.
Right. Like we're all in this together.
Exactly. And then she had this realization that it wasn't about being perfect or knowing everything. It was about letting God work through her,
Right.
even with her flaws. And then people did read her blog,
Oh, wow.
and they found it encouraging, which just proves that you don't have to be perfect to make a difference.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can do great things even if you're not perfect or don't have it all figured out.
Yeah. So the blog ends this part by encouraging us to not let self-doubt hold us back from pursuing what we feel is right, even if we're scared. It says that something amazing can happen even if we feel imperfect.
You just have to trust the process.
Yeah, and the blog then gives us 3 questions to think about.
Okay.
The first one is, what's one area in your life where self-doubt is holding you back right now?
That's a good question. Figuring out where those doubts are coming from is the first step to overcoming them.
Right. The second question is, what negative things are you telling yourself, and how can you replace those with God's truth?
So it's about changing how we think
Yeah. We have to actively challenge those negative thoughts.
and replace them with positive ones.
Right. And the third question is, what's one practical thing you can do every day to remind yourself that you have value, that you are, as the blog says, God's masterpiece?
So like a daily reminder to help us see ourselves in a positive light.
Yeah, something to help us remember our worth every day.
Whether it's saying something positive to yourself, taking time to reflect, or even just looking at something that reminds you of your value, those small things can really make a difference over time.
They can. The blog also encourages people to share their thoughts in the comments so they can support each other. And it ends by saying, remember, you are fearfully and wonderfully made. Walk in that truth today.
It's such a great reminder to live with confidence and purpose.
It is. So as we wrap up this deep dive into Rosy Minds' blog post, the main message is clear. Even though we all struggle with self-doubt, this post gives us a new perspective on our value. It encourages us to challenge those feelings of not being good enough and embrace the truth that we are loved and worthy.
And it's not about ignoring our struggles. It's about understanding them within a bigger picture, recognizing that we are valuable and have a purpose.
Exactly. So thinking about all this, what's one small step you can take this week to challenge those negative thoughts? Maybe replace a negative thought with a positive truth from the Bible, or just take a moment to appreciate your own worth before facing a challenge. Even a small shift in perspective, like what we talked about today, can change how you act and how you see yourself in the future.
Yeah, just start small and see what happens.